Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. How are you? Good morning from jillyjuice.com, JILLYJUICE.com. And today I really want to focus on the environment that's made up of viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and proteins. Okay. And so there was this meme that someone put out there somewhere, and I have it on my business page, and it shows the 6 things that people are deeming as a pathogen. So this is from the perspective of weak people. This is from the perspective of the medical industry that deals with weak people. This is from the perspective of the holistic industry that deals with weak people. So anything that is more aggressive and stronger than the human is going to deem their environment in some way, shape, or form as poisonous. It's just a matter of what in the environment they can pinpoint and then create correlation equals causation. So I actually modified the meme, the document, and so it says pathogens with the two arrows, and then I put in red or an upgrade. Okay, so let's look at what the pathogens or an upgrade, what those are. So I'm reading off of this meme. Any agent causing disease, well, if you're weak, you have disease, usually a living microorganism capable of producing infection. Poison like arsenic would be excluded. Poisons like arsenic. Now, arsenic in very small amounts would not be poisonous, but obviously if you have imbalances in your body to where you are not releasing any excess and you have arsenic in your body and you have antibodies with that and they agglutinate, yes, you could have what you would call heavy metal poisoning. Okay, so they mentioned here viruses. Viruses are multi-celled but can only reproduce inside a plant, animal, or a person. So they need a host. Okay, what are examples of viruses? Hepatitis A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, herpes, mono, warts, chickenpox, smallpox, bird flu, H5N1 norovirus, yellow fever, Ebola, hemorrhagic fever, SARS, AIDS, HIV, influenza, cold sores, cold germs, measles, tetanus, and typhoid. So those are all viruses. They are multi-celled but can only reproduce inside a plant, animal, or a person. Well, how can they reproduce? Well, they invade the host and then they replicate by invading specific cells that can reproduce. Okay, so the next thing is bacteria. Bacteria, tiny one-celled creatures, can live inside or outside the body. Okay, which means that we're growing bacteria in the jelly juice, but it's called lactobacilli, which is the friendly bacteria to the body. All right, and it is part of your body, just like viruses are part of your body. So what is a bacteria? Tuberculosis, anthrax, staph, E. coli, typhoid, salmonella, Morgellons, potentially have a question mark, pneumonia, urinary tract infection, peritonitis, strep throat, stomach ulcers, tularemia, Lyme disease. So bacteria is prevalent out there, and when somebody has a weak body and they have viruses in their body, it then leaves for opportunistic infections from bacteria. So this is why some bacteria can be good, other bacteria can be bad, and it depends upon the strength and the weakness of the body. So there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. That's why we grow the lactobacillus in an anaerobic environment, because that's the good bacteria. Now, if let's say when you grow the jelly juice and there's air that gets in and then there's a little bit of yeast and maybe a little bit of mold on the top, well, when you mix it in, the lactobacillus and the salt kills the bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria. In small amounts, it's not going to hurt you. In large amounts, which we're not growing in large amounts because it's mostly an anaerobic environment that we're growing the chili juice, you're going to get more of the good than the bad. Okay? Fungi. Yeast is a fungus. It is a multi-celled but plant-like, similar to tree fungus. Takes nutrition from a plant, tree, or an animal. It's the messengers. Okay? Just so you know, all of these viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and protein, they're all messengers and chemicals, and it's like a major, like they say quorum. They can also say like Congress. Okay, they are the ones that determine how things get received and how things get projected. Okay. So multi-celled plant, like similar to tree fungus, takes nutrition from a plant, tree, or animal. Okay, where do they take it? Well, they take it and they send it off to different places. Okay, so examples of fungus: ringworm, ADV pneumonia, candidiasis, which is, same thing as yeast infection, histoplasmosis, cryptococcus. Okay. So these are fungus that in small amounts, not a big deal. In large amounts, yes, you're going to see issues. All right, protozoa, one-celled creatures usually spread through water. So when you're swimming in oceans, lakes, and streams and pools, you will have protozoa. These are the different pathogens. Malaria, or the disease names. Malaria, Chagas disease, Giardia or Giardiasis, cryptosporidiosis. Okay, you're exposed to that all the time, but if you have open wounds and a very weak immune system, it could be opportunistic, and that's why people get malaria when they're in like the Amazon. Parasites. Well, a virus is a parasite, just so you know, but there's other types of parasites that need to be addressed. These are actual complex living organisms that can live in an intestinal tract or bloodstream. Now, we have established a couple months back that the parasites that are in your digestive tract and in your colon are there to help compost your poop, since you have the stagnation in your ability to release and compost your own. So this is why you have helpers such as parasites until you strengthen your body. So what makes up parasites? Tapeworm, trigonosis, roundworm, and Morgellons with a question mark. Okay, so parasites can be wonderful for you, or they can become overabundant. No different than viruses can be wonderful for you, but on a weak body can wreak havoc. Bacteria can be wonderful for you, but if there's an imbalance, it can be bad. Protozoa can be wonderful for you because it's just data, messages, and whatever, but too much can be bad. Protein, multi-celled, but can only reproduce inside a plant, animal, or a person. Protein is like BSE, mad cow disease, VCJD disease, and you have different proteins that make up the human body, which is the fatty acid, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. So when you think about it, all of biodiversity is made up of fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals, along with viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and protein. Okay, so we've basically chalked it up to that. That's the human freaking body. That is biodiversity. Now, how you balance out the biodiversity in your body. Okay. How you balance out the biodiversity in your body is, well, it's how you then bring in the right elements or the wrong elements, because you can make it an imbalance, you can make it balanced. And so we have to cut to the chase. Okay, you guys know, you guys can kind of figure out how the human body works. I don't need to go into such detail that, when you swallow food, the saliva goes, it mixes everything up, and it goes through this and does, and breaks it down, and then the enzymes, and we can go into such rabbit hole detail, but you have to see the bigger picture. And that is my point with the Jilly Juice, is to understand the bigger picture so you don't get lost in the details. That is my whole premise, because I know people get lost in details and they start quibbling over details. And that's why it's so hard for me to change information or change certain things, because people get so focused on such details, and they really, like, they can't let it go. It's like it's something that they've hold so fast to whoever they are, that they fail to see the bigger picture. And so I'm always constantly looking at the bigger picture when it comes to JJUs. How do you simplify everything? How do you chalk everything up to a very simplistic thing? Good morning, Renee. So you understand, so you get the bigger picture. So if all of diversity is made up of the viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and protein, and they all have data and messages with intentions and lifespans relative to what chemistry is being applied, how the environment impacts them, what the purpose is, then you start seeing the possibility of indefinite life, regrowing limbs and organs, even if you're born without them. You start seeing how epigenetics happens from influences in the environment, from trauma, from just upsets of homeostasis, weather, war, and all of that. I mean, that's all environment. Okay. And then you start seeing that, okay, you can't always control the outside environment, but if it's not so aggressive outside environment, then your body has the ability to adapt to most conditions out there. Okay, so that's why humans are so diverse and so adaptable. We can live in really hot climates and cold climates, as well as weather the storms that happen occasionally. I mean, if it's constantly raining 24/7 all the time, every single day, and no sun, and that would be a very miserable existence. Okay, and you'd really have to fight the elements to stay alive, and you have to do a lot of things to your body to be able to handle that environment. Not say you couldn't adapt, but it could be very difficult. I mean, the people that live underground, the mole people, have you heard of that from Jerry Springer a long time ago? People that lived underground and they only come out every so often. Well, they've adapted to that kind of life. Not saying it's optimal, but humans have the ability to adapt to most, if not all, environments. So as long as it's not so aggressive that will overwhelm the body, mind, and spirit. And so this is why you've got to understand, with this coronavirus, with all the different bacteria, with all the protozoas and the proteins and the parasites and the fungi, none of those are your enemy. They're only your enemy if the body is weak. When you strengthen your body, you're going to see that you'll have the ability to adapt to the new environment. Because I'm telling you, the coronavirus is not going to be the only virus that's going to be released, whether it's man-made or whether it's because of the permafrost melting, because of global warming or whatever is going on. So now, the coronavirus is just an example of what's more to come down the road. And if you can't adapt to the environment, understand that viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and protein are not the enemy, then you will constantly live in fear. You will constantly play the avoidance game, the discrimination game. You will basically feel like that you have no control of your environment, and then you'll end up having a very shortened lifespan. Okay? And so the whole point of Jelly Juice is not to shorten your lifespan. The whole point of Jelly Juice is to see the bigger picture, to understand the bigger picture, understand the details on a very superficial level. You don't have to know every single freaking mechanism down to this down. I mean, it exists. Electrons and protons and neutrons exist. Stuff happens in cells when water gets through it and all this other stuff. I mean, I don't need to go into such great detail like that, because that's easily searchable, and I can put in links to give you the details where you can read it without me having to go and spell it out for people. But you have to see the bigger picture. And that's what I want you guys to understand, is the bigger picture, not get lost in the details. Because when you get lost in the details, then you'll lose your audience, because they will get bored with the details. There's a bigger picture called balance. And if you can chalk up biodiversity to those 6 things, and then understand what the human body is made up of, fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals, and then you have to figure out how to balance those out, because there are imbalances. And when you have imbalances, anomalies happen. And then you have overabundance and too many antibodies, and then the body starts breaking down. What's antibody? It's antibody. What's antibiotic? Anti-life. Okay? When you start understanding the words, and then understanding what's going on in your body and why death happens in our culture, then you can better grasp why the Jilly juice is completely amazing and why the salt is completely amazing. And the salt is the energizing force that is not recognized and not given enough credibility because of fear of the energy. People don't want to heal. They don't want to feel pain. And when you don't want to feel pain, you're going to find ways to anesthetize and utilize your own hormones, or as well as find agents that will manipulate your hormones. And you will anesthetize yourself until you have nothing left, until an aggressive thing comes into your environment and completely overwhelms your body, mind, and spirit. And so this is why I changed the salt, because I recognized, and it wasn't like that just, it wasn't like I just knew this. What was the catalyst was the fact that I'm looking at the coronavirus taking down nations. Okay? And the pink Himalayan salt came from Pakistan. We know Pakistan and India are so closely, tightly compact with a very minimal healthcare system. Soon as they get hit by some aggressive virus, it's going to take down that whole population. So it's time to look local. Where do I get salt? Well, I'm willing to go and just deal with the white salt. I was willing to go figure out, okay. Then I'm like, you know what? Sodium chloride salt with an anti-caking agent. I don't need all the minerals like the pink Himalayan salt. I get the minerals in my tap water, the air and the food and the water and all that stuff. So why the hell am I worried about getting minerals in this pink salt when I have minerals in my own local environment and I can get local sodium chloride for so cheap? Paying $20 for a 5-pound bag for minerals I already get anyways and sodium chloride, and I paid $7.25 from a distributor that gets their sodium chloride from U.S. salts. And it has 1% anti-caking agent. If they bleach it, big freaking deal. It's a freaking mineral. It's FDA approved. It's food grade. There you go. Your body can handle it. Your body can process and take in what it needs and release the excess. And so that's when I figured out. And then I realized that, you know what? Maybe the reason why you guys aren't really healing at the level that you should is because the pink salt is stagnating, but it was probably a very good primer to know that, yes, you can heal on pink salt, take away the minerals and get straight to the source, the white salt. How much exponential healing you could actually experience. When you get straight to the source, you're not getting all muddled up with the freaking heavy metals. Because that's what people get afraid of, right? Is heavy metal toxicity. Heavy metal this, heavy metal that, heavy metal, it's like, okay, well, if you're so full of heavy metals and you're doing the pink salt, which is supposed to be healthier, why is it healthier? Because it's less sodium chloride. Well, actually, no, it's not healthier. But I did bend to the will of the holistic industry. Not anymore. I will not bend to the will of the holistic industry, the allopathic industry, of what they deem as dangerous. Awesome, Renee. And I have now isolated the mineral because Jilly juice is the ultimate processed food. Because there's nothing that is bad or horrible regarding processed food. It's your ability to handle that advanced data pack. And some people, with the Jilly juice, I've compartmentalized the salt, the cabbage and the kale and the water, and it's a fermentation, and there's certain ratios that you have to work with. And it's a very strategic processed food that is not commercially driven or distributed or processed in a plant. You make it yourself, so it does not be FDA approved. And you drink it and you feel the healing and you see the strategy of it. And then we have discriminated against certain foods in the beginning, so your body has a chance to release the excess and heal and to not tax it so much with other foods that are going to cause more imbalances to your already imbalanced body. So you play that game for a minute until you start gauging the barometer of your mucus and your waterfalls, releasing the excess to make room for the new environment that you're going to be encountering pretty soon, if not already. And yes, pain's involved, healing's involved, releasing mucus, releasing poop. And if you want to hold on to your mucus and hold on to your shit, well, then this protocol isn't for you. And then you are going to be a sitting duck for a very aggressive environment when there's so many antibodies are going to be being accumulated and you have stagnation. Okay, so going to straight source, the mineral, the one mineral, well, two mineral compound elements, the sodium chloride plus then 1% anti-caking agent. And I'm telling you, I tasted it before I fermented it because I was making it the other day. It tastes so good. When I was mixing and stirring, the ones that are fermenting right now, I tasted it because it's still foamy at the top. Tasted so good. And I used tap water. I used white salt, sodium chloride. I used conventional cabbage and kale, and I mixed the two. I blended them all together. So they're all the nutrients and the minerals and all of that stuff is in my jars. And so that's going to be the ultimate energy source. And I expect to see the next level of healing with you guys, because now you're not being muddled down with all these minerals. Okay? So there's a strategy to Jilly Juice that if people would just chill out and relax and just listen to me for a minute and stop trying to promote their own agenda, stop being stuck in the details of the holistic world, you would actually see that I make sense. But people have to actually calm down. But yesterday I was very emotional because I'm tired of being questioned. I'm tired of it. I think I've proven myself enough to not to be questioned and picked at 24 freaking 7. So anyways, I've simplified a lot. And so, I'm doing my own writing right now because I get the bigger picture and I want to write the bigger picture. I want to write the bigger picture because I understand the bigger picture. I don't think you guys need everything to such detail. I think, yes, there'll be a place for the smaller, finer details for those that need to know when you swallow food, what happens to it. Well, you can read that on the internet. It's not difficult to go and research what the salivary glands do. I'm not going into that detail with my next book. I want to break everything down to an elementary state, everything that I've ever talked about. Okay? Everything that I had all these things on the wall downstairs in my basement, all those tiles of all my notes of my mind mapping. I'm putting them all together and I'm putting them in order that I want for you guys to understand my thought process. And that's what I'm going to write about. Because that's what I think you need. If you need much more detail, there'll be a place for that. I'm going to make space for the finer details for those that want the finer details with a different spin on it. But you have to see my thought process first. Okay? And that's where I kind of got lost. And because not that I got lost, I was still in the development process. But the white salt is what clinched it for me. When you can get straight to the source without any intermediaries, without the middleman, figuratively and literally, because when you're buying something overseas from freaking Pakistan to get something over here, okay, then you are taking in the middleman. So yeah. And so with the Jilly Juice, hold on a second. When we're doing the white salt, we took out the middleman. And the middleman was the minerals. So now we're going straight to the source. You're going to get the minerals in the cabbage, in the tap water, in the kale, in the air, in your food, and you're not having to double dip. So yeah, I have a lot of notes from the last year. I have so many that I have these tiles, things that I've written out. All the notes that I have, I'm going to be compiling into the book, into one book. And then there'll be another book that's going to have the details and some other spin that some of you might appreciate because you may, find some kind of appreciation for that. But you have to see my thought process undiluted with no other spin, no other agenda with it. Okay? So that's kind of what's going on in my head. It's what's going on. And yeah, and that's where I'm going. I still have my inner circle. They're still going to be part of me, but I have to reconfigure a little bit so you guys can get straight to my source of information without somebody else's spin on it. And I have an editor that will edit it. And then yes, Kevin will have his book that he will have his take on my information. And then he will get his point across as far as the energy world and all of that. But you have to see my information undiluted. So that way you're not looking for my information amongst his information. Okay? But my writing has actually gotten better. I'm actually getting straight to the point, but I'm still going to have an editor to make sure that all the points and everything flows correctly. And maybe there might be some sentence structures that may need to be reconfigured. But I have secured someone that's willing to do it without any money. And so, that's what's going on. So that's it. But I wanted you guys to understand that everything can be simplified. It's about big picture. Details are great, but you don't want to get lost in the details. And it's just doing the J juice. Okay? Just doing the J juice. That's it. So you guys have a good day. I got to get to work. And yeah, and I'm looking forward. So you'll see a few books come out. This next year. All right. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.